The U.S. Supreme Court released the remaining opinions that were cases that were coming from 2023 and 2024. But obviously, drawing the most attention was the Supreme Court's ruling in Trump v. United States, where the court held that a former president has absolute immunity for his core constitutional powers. The decision was 6-3. And it has the anti-Trump left absolutely throwing a tantrum. So what impact is this decision going to have? Joining me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Eric Burlison. He serves on 3 House committees, including the Great Oversight and Accountability Committee, as well as the Education and Workforce Committee. He represents the 7th Congressional District of Missouri. Congressman Burlison, always great to have you. Welcome back to Washington Watch.
Great to be back.
Well, listen, first of all, before we get into all this stuff, let me just say on a personal note, congratulations on being recognized last week with FRC Action's annual award for members of Congress who scored a perfect 100% for votes that were cast on our scorecard in 2023. We are very proud of you, and thank you for your great stance.
Well, thank you. It's an honor. Honestly, a couple of years ago, I would have pinched myself for the opportunity to meet with you and Tony Perkins, and it's just I just keep having to pinch myself because I've looked up to all you guys as heroes and fighters for our values, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, that's very kind. To be honest, we're now pinching ourselves and honored to have you standing tall and standing firm for our values. So thank you so much. All right, let's turn to the Supreme Court decision. If you can, give me your take on today's ruling, specifically the one on former President Trump's immunity.
Yeah, the left is going crazy. They're making accusations like that, for example, this would allow President Biden to send in SEAL Team 6 to assassinate his opponents. That is not at all the case. The court didn't rule in that way. The court, I felt like, made a very common sense ruling that a president has immunity when performing the duties of his office. It just so happens that some of those duties include making sure that there's no voter fraud that occurred in the previous election. That was clearly within the duties of the president to make sure that there was nothing that was rigged, and so I think that he kept within his role, and because of that, I think that the court rightly ruled that his acts were not that there's immunity for those acts. We'll see how this returns to what the judge does with this ruling. Hopefully the judge will dismiss the case altogether.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that unfolds. But when you say the left is just going crazy over this, you're right. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic House Minority Leader, he's already warned that the Supreme Court's decision today on immunity, he said, it sets a dangerous precedent for the future of our nation. Can you give me a response to that kind of reaction?
Yeah, I think that they're using hyperbole. Obviously, for example, that reference about sending in the SEAL team. It's just absurd. I think that they're overreacting. Look, they've been trying to do everything they can to stop Trump from being on the ballot again. I think that they know that he's popular. He's a very unique candidate, and so they're doing. They can't win in the public opinion, the court of public opinion. So they're going to try to take him on in the courtroom, and they have weaponized, as you know, the judicial system and their court system, and it's great to see that the highest court of the land, Supreme Court, stepped in and said that this is a bridge too far, that that prosecuting him for trying to perform the duties of his office is a bridge too far.
Yeah, it really is, and I know there's a lot of us that have been waiting on a court finally to recognize what many have said, this is obvious. Why is it taking so long? So, yeah, we're excited about that, and it is good to get some common sense back in the courts. There was another case that the Supreme Court ruled on today. It's kind of on hold, but the Florida and Texas laws that were seeking to limit how social media platforms regulate user content. It's going back to the lower courts, but do you have a reaction on that?
I do not. I haven't had a chance to look at that one. I know that Missouri, the court case on Missouri, I was highly disappointed in the outcome of that. I think that social media, I think that them working with the federal government was an absolute horrific thing for democracy, and I was disappointed with that court decision. I'll have to take a look at the Florida decision as well.
Yeah, we'll see. It's just on hold. It hasn't gone away. It's just a pause, if you will. I think it's certainly going to be coming back, but they want the lower courts to do more work on it. If we can switch gears, there's still a lot of talk about the presidential debate last week and the disastrous performance from Joe Biden. What are you hearing since then? What's your sense in Congress in terms of what other members are thinking about Joe Biden's abilities?
The day after, I was in the member gym, and as a former member, that's kind of an area where you typically have Republicans and Democrats that, we're not talking politics. We kind of, it's a jovial environment. And yet that morning after the debate, Democrats were aloof. They were kind of pulling to themselves. They weren't talking to the rest of us, and so you could tell that they were taken aback by that performance. And I think that what's clear is that the Democratic Party is trying to figure out what their next steps are going to be. I think, though, the problem is that the toothpaste is out of the tube, so there's no putting it back in. And the problem is that they're facing is that it's going to be very, very difficult to get Joe Biden off of the ballot. What I learned today is that, for example, the money that's in his account, all of those, I think closing in on $100 million can only be used. It's not transferable. It can only be used on the Biden-Harris campaign. So I don't know that this is that they have an option to be able to back out of this.
Wow, that's a lot of money that's pretty well restricted. It looks like the same Democrats, and you talk about how it was there in the gym, but the very same ones who are now wanting to replace Biden as a candidate seem to have no problem with him remaining as president. That in itself just seems like they're more concerned about the election than they are about questions that came to surface as to the president's fitness mentally. Any thoughts on that?
Well, these are the most dangerous months potentially in the United States, where we have someone that apparently is only cognitive or alert for a few hours in the day. Even that's what his staff are now leaking to the press, is that there's two Bidens. There's the Biden that's alert from 10 a.m. until 2, and then there's Sleepy Joe after that. That's not good for America and our security. I think that these are going to be the very dangerous months. But one thing to note is that, look, the media and his handlers have been hiding this and covering this up for months and months and months, and they've been lying to us. And so, why do we want to believe the things that they're trying to tell us today, when we know that they've been lying all this time?
Well, we just need to get a global memo out that all emergencies must happen between the hours of 10 and 4 Eastern time. Unbelievable. Congressman Eric Burlison of Missouri's 7th District, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you.